conditions. It is not very matter decided in former suit that will operate as res judicata in subsequent suit. The continue matter as res judicata under section 11. The following condition must be satisfied. The matter directly and substantially in issue in the subsequent suit or issue must be the same matter which was directly and substantially in issue either actually or constructive in the former of suit. The former of suit have been a suit between the same parties or between the parties under whom they or any of them claim. Such parties must have been litigating under the same title in the former suit. The court which decided the former suit must be a court competent to try the subsequent suit or the suit in which issue is subsequent arised. The matter directly and substantially in issue in the base subsequent suit must have been heard and finally decided by the court in the former suit. Execution proceeding explanation VAA. Prior to the addition to explanation VAA section 11 by the Amendment Act of 1976 in the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, the provision thereof did not in interim apply to education proceeding, but the general principle of res judicata were held to be applicable even when it execution proceedings. Industrial adjudication. Though section 11 of the code speaks about the suit only, the general principle underlying the doctrine of res judicata apply even to an industrial adjudication. Thus, an award pronounced by the industrial tribunal operates as res judicata between the same parties, and the payment of wages authority has no jurisdiction to certain and said claim again. Similarly, if in a earlier case the labor of court had decided that was not a workman under the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, the said finding operates as res judicata in subsequent proceeding also, and there are good reasons why this principle should be extended and apply industrial adjudication also. Legislation regulating the relation between the capital and labor has two objects in view. It seeks to ensure that to the workmen who have not capacity to combat capital on equal terms, fair return or their labor. It also seeks to prevent dispute between employers and employees so that production might not be adversely affected and the large interest of society might not suffer. Thus, where an award was passed in earlier proceedings, it was held that the said award was binding on the parties and the subsequent proceeding initiated by the employees were barred. Taxation matters. The liability to pay tax from year to year is separate, distinct and independent liability. Each of your assignment is thereof a separate unit and the does not apply to subsequent assignments. Consequently, the doctrine of res judicata has no application in such cases. A distinction, however, must be made between a question of fact and pure question of law. Each assignment year being an independent unit, a decision for 1 year may not operate res judicata in another year. But if a pure question of law, constitutional validity of a statute is decided, it may not be easy to hold that the decision on the basis and material issue would not operate as res judicata against the AC from a subsequent year. Public interest litigation. Since the primary object of res judicata is bring an end to litigation, there is no reason not to extend the doctrine to public interest litigation. In forward construction, cooperative Prabhat Malla the Supreme Court was decided called upon to decide the question, the apex court held that the principle would apply to public interest litigation provided it was a bona fide litigation. In another case, it was observed it is a repetitive litigation on the every same issue coming up before the courts again and again in grave of public interest litigation. It is high time to put an end to end the same. Criminal proceedings. The doctrine of res judicata is universal application. It is fundamental concept in the organization to every jural society. The rule thereof should apply even to criminal proceeding. Once a person is acquitted or convicted by a component of criminal courts, he cannot once again be tried for the same offense as held by the Supreme Court. The principle of res judicata is applicable to criminal proceedings also. Writ petition. It has been settled since long that though Section 11 of the Code does not, its terms apply to the writ petition, there is no good grounds to preclude decision in matter in controversy in writ proceeding under the Article 32 or Article 226 of the Constitution from the operating as res judicata in subsequent petition or regular suits on the same matter in controversy between the same parties, and thus to give limited effect to the principle of finality of decision after full consent. Dismissal for default. The dismissal of suit in default cannot be said to be the matter heard and finally decided on merits, and hence such dismissal will not operate as res judicata between the parties in subsequent proceeding. In Chanda Kaur versus Pratap Singh, here Lordship of the Privy Council observed that dismissal of suit for plaintiff default for appearance was plainly not intended to operate as res judicata. No doubt it imposed certain disability upon the plaintiff. For instance, he is thereby precluded from bringing a fresh suit in respect of the same cause of action. Dismissal in limine. Sometimes an application may be dismissed by the court by one word dismissed. It is well settled that such dismissal of an application in limine without passing a speaking order or recording reason will not operate as res judicata in subsequent proceedings. No doubt, prima facie such dismissal would indicate that the court considered all the connections and arguments of the applicant and dismissed the application, not finding any substance therein. But in absence of ground or reason, it is difficult to decide that the factors weighed with a court and why order of dismissal was passed. Dismissal of special leave petition SLP. The dismissal of special leave petition in limine by a non-speaking order does not operate as res judicata between the parties and will not bar fresh petition either under Article 32 or under Article 226 of the Constitution, as observed in Workman versus Board of Trustees, Cabin of Trust. The effect of a non-speaking order of dismissal of a special leave petition without anything more indicating the grounds or reason of dismissal must, by necessary implication, be taken to be that the Supreme Court did not consider it to be a fit case where special leave should be granted. The conclusion might have been reached for several reasons, but when the order was not a speaking one, it cannot be assumed that the Supreme Court had necessarily decided all the questions in relation to the merits of the controversy which was under challenge in special leave petition. The dismissal of a special leave petition in limine by a non-speaking order does not therefore justify any interference that by necessary implication the consideration arised in the special leave petition on the merits of the case have been rejected by the Supreme Court. Thanks for watching. To subscribe, hit the bell icon, turn on all notifications.